Hi, Emmanuel here with T2S, and T2S stands for Transformed to Succeed. In this video, what I'm gonna do, I will be setting up a two-tier architecture on AWS, meaning that I'll create an infrastructure with kind of like two major purposes or two major components. One would be this is the web, kind of like the front end part of our infrastructure, and the other one will be like the back end of our infrastructure, meaning that the back end, this is where we store resources or services that we do not want to expose to the internet. And at the front end, that's kind of like that's what we expose to our clients over the internet. So I'm gonna jump right into kind of like an overview. So you look at this diagram here that I drew actually. This is what we will be achieving or creating at the end of the demo. So first, what we need to do is to create a VPC. So that will be the first thing that we going to do. And then after creating the VPC, inside of this VPC stands for Virtual Private Cloud, we're gonna create two subnets. One will be public, meaning the first subnet will be exposed to the internet. And how do we expose something to the internet? It's by using an internet gateway. And this internet gateway is attached to the VPC. See here, it's attached to the VPC. And when we attach it to the VPC, then we're gonna create a route table. This route table, what it's gonna do, it's gonna route traffic to this one here. So that every resource that we have in this public subnet, like server A and server B, they will all have access to the internet. So they can send and receive traffic over the internet. So that's kind of the purpose here. So a company, you have an application, web application, like it could be like Facebook. So you want people to be on Facebook, and to do it, then you put that application in a public subnet, and which will expose your resources to everybody, to the internet. I mean, the people that you want to access your application. And then the private subnet will do the same. We'll create also a route table. And when we create a route table, instead of connecting the route table to the internet gateway, we'll connect it to the NAT gateway. The NAT gateway, it's kind of like an intermediary or an in-between resource that we place between the private subnet and the internet gateway. So that server C, which we don't want to expose to everybody, to anybody over the internet, but still we want to be able to patch, like update, keep these two servers up to date. And to do that, we will need to use to route traffic first to the NAT gateway, and then the NAT gateway to the internet. And the NAT gateway is attached to the public subnet. Okay, so that's pretty much what we'll be doing. And then after we do all of that, we'll make sure that we test server A to see if it can connect to server C. And server A will be our Bastion instance, which allows us to connect to the resources in our private subnet. Yeah, I'm gonna jump now to the website, and I'm gonna take you to the console. One of the requirements for you to do this, you're gonna need to, I assume that you know how to use SSH, right? That's secure shell. And I assume that you know how to open an account on AWS, because I'm not going to teach you how to do that right now. So you go. I assume that you have already an account. So what you do, you just log in. And step number one, we're gonna create a VPC, and in this VPC we'll create two subnets, one public and the other one will be private. So let's find our VPC. You search here VPC, go to VPC, and when you get to your VPC, you go to the search here, look for VPC, and then you're gonna get to the VPC dashboard here. And when you get there, you look for the create, this orange button to create a new VPC. Click there. Then we're gonna give it a name. We're gonna choose VPC only here. Choose VPC only. And then we'll call it a 2-tier VPC. So you do that, and then let's say the CIDR block would be 20.0.20. So I'm gonna say 20.0.0 and then another 0, and then we're gonna say 16 here. So let's go with this. So I'm copying that because I'm gonna need it for my subnets, and then everything stays the same. So then change anything here, and at the bottom there you see create VPC. Just click there, and then if you go back here, still stay on the VPC dashboard, because we're gonna be on this dashboard for quite some time here. We're gonna stay on VPC dashboard because this is where we're gonna create subnets, we'll create route tables, the internet gateways, and even the NAT gateways down here. So I'm gonna go here and then click on your VPC, and that, if you look, you're gonna find the 2-tier VPC that we have created. So I'm gonna copy that, go back to, and we stay on the VPC dashboard as I just mentioned. Go to subnets, click on subnets here. Then when you click on subnets, it's gonna give you a list of the different subnets you may have on your account. In my case, I have quite a few here because I've been playing with this for some time now. So click on the orange button here, create subnet. So click there. So you click on that button, and then you have to associate your subnet with an existing VPC ID. So ours is the 2-tier here. I'm gonna select that, and then I'm gonna type the name here. I'll call it public. Public, I'll say sub. So it's gonna be public sub, and then the CIDR block, it's gonna be I'm gonna say 1 here, and then 24. So when you do 24, you see here it gives you when you do this, it gives you the number of IP addresses that you can assign to this specific subnet. And if you do like 26, it's gonna give you 64. If you do 27, it's gonna give you 30 IPs. If you do 28, it's gonna give you 16. Sometimes at a company, your manager may ask you to only assign like 16 IP or 16 systems will be allowed to be assigned to this this subnet. So that's what you do. So we're gonna go back to if you do 32, just to for you to know it's just one IP address. So I'm gonna go back to 24 because that's what we want, and everything stays the same. So go down here to create bucket or subnet. So click, and our first subnet has been created. So now we need to create the private subnet. I click create, and I select the same IP VPC ID that we need. That will be the 2-tier. So that's that one. And then I'm gonna do enter the same name here, but this is going to be private. Okay, sub, and then the IP address would be the CIDR block would be 2 here, 0, and then 24 because we need 250 IPs. Everything stays the same, and then click create subnet. So after you do that, you're gonna see if you do 2-tier here, and then so I'm gonna get rid of that. So if you do 2-tier, you're gonna see both here. They show up because they exist. So we have public and private. So the next thing that we need to do is to create an internet gateway. Remember, an internet gateway, it's a service that you create, and then you attach that service to your VPC. So that's what we will be doing now. We go back to our console, and again, remember, we stay on the VPC dashboard. So now we go back here, down here, you see internet gateway, you click there. And then go find the create internet gateway button here to the top right. Then I'm gonna enter the name here. So it's gonna be the 2-tier IGW internet gateway, and just do that. Give it whatever name you want, but I'm going with the 2-tier IGW, kind of like keeping the same naming convention here. And then I click create internet gateway. So the internet gateway has been created here, and then what we need to do, we stay here, we need to attach it to a VPC. You see here they're asking you the following, see on the top here, the following internet gateway was created. Now you can attach to a VPC to enable the VPC to communicate with the internet. That's kind of like the purpose of having an internet gateway. So 2 ways to do that. Either you click on this thing here, attach to VPC, or you go to action here and you see the same thing here. So I'm gonna click, and then I'm gonna find the VPC to which I want to attach my internet gateway. So I click here, and it's a 2-tier. So I select that one and then attach. So now that's done. If we go back to our thing here, if you go back to our overview here, so what we have done is that we have created the VPC, right? We have created this public subnet. We have created the private subnet. We have just now created an internet gateway, and we have attached it to the VPC. And next, we need to create the route table for the public subnet and the route table for the private subnet. The route table for the public subnet, we're gonna connect, we're gonna attach a route or create a new route to lead or take the traffic, to send traffic to the internet gateway. And then for the private subnet, we'll create the NAT gateway, as I said, and then route traffic to the NAT gateway. Okay, so let's do that now. go back to the console. We are on the console, and again we are on the same the VPC dashboard here. So we click to go down here to route tables. So we're gonna go to the route tables. We have a lot of route tables here. In your case, you may not probably have all of these here. So I'm gonna click create route. Then I'm gonna give it a name, and I'll call it public route table that way. Then you have to select the VPC that will be using this route table. So it's a 2-tier here. Everything stays the same, and I click create route. So we have created the first route, and then this is for the public subnet, and that's why I kept it public here. So now what we need to do is action here. You can do action, or you can, if you look at these tabs, you have the route, then you have subnet association, edge association, route propagation. But now we want to associate this route table to the public subnet. So I'm gonna click here. When you click there, you have propositions here. Okay, so you have 2 subnets. Which one do you wanna associate this route table with? I'm gonna click here, edit subnet association. When I click, so I have these 2 here, and I'm gonna select the first one because we want this route table to be public, to be associated with the public subnet, and then save associations. All right, so I've done that, and next we need to route traffic from the public subnet to the internet, right? So I'm gonna then go here, click edit, and then when you click edit, we want to add a new route. So we're gonna click on add route, and then so here I'm gonna say 000, meaning that all traffic, okay, all traffic, that's the destination to the internet, all traffic to the internet gateway, which allows us to connect to the internet. And then we have to select the target. For the public subnet, we select the internet gateway, okay? And then we have to find, sometimes you may have more than one here. In my case, I only have one. So I'm gonna click here, and then go to save changes. So now, if you look at the public route table, you have 2 routes. One, it's the target is your local system, and then the second one, it's this one here. You know, the first one, anything in this VPC can communicate with this resource here, can send traffic to this resource. But for the one on top here, it's everything from, I mean, the destination, it goes anywhere. And then here, sorry about that, here the destination is everything within our virtual private cloud network. So here, but the second one, the one on top, it's to everywhere. So this resource, things in this subnet will send traffic to anywhere over the internet. So that's kind of like the point here. So now we go back here to the route. We need to create now the route table for the private subnet. So I'm gonna do that here, private subnet, and then I select the 2-tier VPC here, like what we did for the public subnet, and click create route. So now the route has been created, and you see here, so the system, this resource can send traffic to anything in this VPC. That's the first route. So we're gonna have first to associate this with our private subnet. and then click Save Associations. And then after doing that, then we edit the route. So we're gonna edit the routes and then we add one here. So we're gonna say anything here, but you know, the point is we have not created any NAT gateway, which is something that we need first to do. I'll take you for a moment to the point here. So what we need to do, we create a NAT gateway. A NAT gateway, it's gonna be created in the public subnet. Then we're gonna associate it now with the private route table. So we need to go back first to that step. Back to our console here. So I'm gonna go to let's go back to the VPC dashboard. So I click there, and then I'm gonna look for the NAT gateways and click there. Then when you do that, you're gonna have to create one. We'll call it 2-tier NAT and then gateway. So call it NAT gateway, like that. And you see here, you need to associate it with a subnet. So we're gonna associate this with the public subnet. Our public subnet is gonna be the 2-tier, if we can find it here. So here it is, 2-tier. So connectivity should be public, because if you don't say, it's gonna be private here. It's gonna be private because we don't want this to be public. We don't want people to send, or anybody to send, or anything to send traffic to our resources in the private subnet. And then when you get there, then you just click Create NAT Gateway. So the NAT Gateway has been created. And what we do now, we go back to our route tables, and we look for the private route table, private route table. That would be this one here. So we're gonna click there, and then we're gonna edit routes. We add a new route. So we're gonna say this. We're gonna say that, and then here we select the NAT gateway here. Then we add, we select the correct one here, the one that we have just created. Then click Save Changes. So that's pretty much done with. If we go back to our overview here. So what we have done, we have created this one too. We have configured our route tables, and now it's pretty much done. So the infrastructure is pretty much set. So we need to create a server that we will be using as a Bastion in the public subnet, and then we'll create another one where we will be storing our data that we don't want to expose to the internet. Let me show you this here. So sorry about that. So I was saying that so we have done this. We have created this and configured this too. So what we need to do is now to create the server, which will be our Bastion server, to allow us to access resources in the private subnet. So we'll create these two servers here. So let's go back to our console, and we are back to our console here. So what we need to do, we're gonna go back to EC2, and what I'll do, I'll launch a quick system here, server. So we're gonna call it Bastion, 2-tier Bastion. So we'll call it that way, and then let's use Ubuntu, and we're gonna use a free tier, eligible, and then we can create a new key pair, and we give it a name. It's gonna be a 2-tier key. Let's call it that way. Okay, and then when we're done, we click here, create key pair. And what's going to happen? Okay, what's going to happen every time you create a key pair? It's gonna download the key, and then if you go to your downloads, I'm gonna delete this for a moment. Sorry about that. So that's my old stuff. So I'm gonna delete that. So you're gonna see this key here. And usually what I do, I move my key to where I store all of my keys. So I'm gonna move this here to, I just copy. I'll take it to my AWS key. You see this one here? So this is where I store my keys. I'm gonna just put it there, and this is my key here. And then the other thing that I do, you can, because I'm using a Mac, you can just use the terminal on a Mac to access to access your instances, or you can use sometimes I use Visual Studio here, and I will not be using that right now. So we go back to the console here. We want to allow SSH traffic here. So we want to allow that for the security group. And what I would do, I would just create a security group. And to do that, go to the edit here. See here? So click edit. And then you select your VPC, the one that you're dealing with. So it's gonna be the 2-tier VPC here. And then you select the subnet where we want to create our instance. So I'm gonna select the public because we're gonna start with that one first. So we have that, and we will call the security group as 2-tier SG, security group. So, and then we'll use the same thing here. So I'll probably say security group for the 2-tier architecture. So I do that, and then we're gonna need to use SSH here. So go use SSH, and from anywhere, just leave it as it is. So that's pretty much it. So do that, and click here, launch. So when you get the bottom here, you have a summary of what you want to create here. Click launch instance. It's gonna take just a few seconds, and now what we need to do is to create another instance. We're gonna create another instance, but this is where we'll be storing our data. So we're gonna call it 2-tier private, and then it's Ubuntu. Let's say we want to store our database on this Linux system, and we will so let's say we want to use the same key. So it's gonna be 2-tier key here. Gonna use the same key, and then security group, we're gonna use the same security group to allow access to our system. So where is our security group? Yeah, I wonder what we did. So I don't see it here. The 2-tier. I thought that we created one, right? On the other. Okay, so we're gonna okay. I thought that we created one. So we're gonna select here. I think we need to be in this VPC and be able to see it. Yeah, I think so. Okay, here it is. So make sure that you select the correct VPC and subnet. See here, 2-tier. That's where you find some of the resources that you have already created. In that VPC and in that specific subnet, this is where we want to have our instance. And then we have the same there, security group. Everything stays the same. And what you do next is just launch. So if you go back here, you're gonna see your 2 instances running. So we're gonna go here, say here, running, and the other one is still provisioning, so we're gonna have to wait. Give it some time, and then it should be up and running, and then it's gonna show up in here. Okay, while we are waiting for the second, the second instance, or the instance in the private subnet to be completely created. It's running, but it's you see here the status here. It should be running. Okay, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna log into SSH into this one here. Not the private one. Let's go back here. So we're gonna go to the public one, the Bastion. Gonna refresh it. Okay, so I did make a mistake here. When creating an instance, you can decide whether to give it a public IP address, which will be dynamic, meaning it changes every time you stop your instance and then start it again. It's gonna get a new IP address every time you do that. And if you want a static IP address, then you have to attach to it an elastic IP address. So I'm gonna recreate this and allow us to have a public IP address. So I'll do that right now. Okay, so this is what you do when you get to you're launching a new instance. Make sure that you select when you come down here. You see here the auto assign public IP address. If this is what you want, then that's what you need to do, and making sure that the specific server, you are allowed to expose it to everybody or whatever customers you may have over the internet. So I forgot to enable this here, so I'm gonna enable it, and then we select an existing security group. It's gonna be the 2-tier security group. Remember, security groups, they are linked to your VPC. It's within your VPC. So if you change VPCs, you will not see them. When you create them, they stay in that one specific VPC. So you do that, and let's look at the SSH here, security group. I decided to use the existing one, the 2-tier with SSH allowed, so we can connect to this using SSH. So I'm gonna launch it, and if you go back here to now, we should be able to see an IP v4 address here. You see this one here? This is what will allow us to connect from our local machine to our system here. So it's not yet done here, and I believe I selected the same key that we created earlier. So that's done, and what we need to do now, just wait here. So let's go back here to our instances, and you see the two instances that we created. This one here, so this is the private we created, and if you look here, it doesn't have a public IPv4 because we don't want it to be seen, to be exposed over the internet. Going back here, so now our Bastion is running and we should be able to connect. So click connect here, and here you have the steps on how you can SSH into your system. But remember to do this command here. You have to be in the exact location where your PEM key is. I'm gonna go there now. So I'm using Visual Code here, and because I'm using Visual Code, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna first go to my desktop because this is where my key is. Remember, it's in my desktop and it's here. AWS key is here. So I need to go there and find it. So I go to desktop, and if I ls, I see my stuff here, and I can tell that this is where my keys are. So I see it in there, and then I'm gonna ls, and my key is here. So the first thing that I need to do is to I need to enter this command here, changing permissions of this key. So I do that, and if you go back here, the next thing that we need to do to SSH onto this system is to use this command, and then the PEM key will allow, kind of like, authenticate us. So I'm gonna do that, then press enter. It's gonna ask me a question to say yes or no, and that's how you connect to your system. So we need to go to where we have already stored our key, and if I ls, so this is a key that we will be using. And to connect, you go back to your instance that you want to connect to. So I'm gonna refresh that, and this is our Bastion system. So I click connect, and I choose the SSH client tab here. So the first thing I do is the true mode. I go here, because I was having some issues with this before, so I had to recreate the instance. And the next thing here, you just click here, which it is an SSH command to allow you to SSH into the system here. So I'm gonna just copy that, and then I go back to my command line, paste that there, and I should be able to connect, as you can tell. So I am in, and usually when you have a new system, and this is an Ubuntu system, I would just recommend you to update it. So we're gonna do that, and once we do this, once the update is done, then we can try to SSH into the other system, and and to let's go back here. So we go back to our instances. I'll close the, go back here. So go back to our instances here, and this is our Bastion instance. I'm gonna click here to running. This is our Bastion instance. So we've been able to access our Bastion instance, and now from our Bastion instance, we need to connect to this one here. Remember, it doesn't have a public IP address, and but it does have a private address, and it has a key. But in this case, we're using the same key pair here. So we'll try to SSH into this using this IP, private IP address. Go back here. So we'll try to SSH, and let me see if I can go back here. So we're gonna just use this one here to SSH. This is the private server, the server in the private subnet. So I go back here. Now I'm gonna try that, and I'll first remove this and see if I can do that. Yes. Then it's saying denied because we need the key to be put here, and I'll show you how you can do that. Okay, so we are here. We have the two instances running. We have the Bastion and the two tier. I had some issues, but what I did was to make sure that I was able to take the PAM key, that would allow you to connect to the two-tier server, which is hosted in the private subnet. So I'll show you what I did. The first thing that I did was I used this command here to SSH add command. So I'm gonna add this here, and then I copied. Remember, I am in this directory. This is where I keep my keys, and this is the key that both my public instances using that as well as my private. I just wanted to keep the same for the sake of practice, but in a work environment you wouldn't need to do that for security reasons. So for the one, the private instance is using this key here, and what I had to do was to make sure that this is it's well stored. Okay, so it's also on my instance. So my public instance should have the key to authenticate the system as it tries to access the private instance, and I hope that makes sense. So I had to SCP and to SCP this key here to my Bastion, because that's where you store the authentication keys or the key pairs for to allow the Bastion system to access the private or the resources that you have in your private subnet. So I did that, and that's how you copy this, and then here it said failed to upload file because we already have this file on the system. I'm gonna show it to you here. So if I ls, I already copied that. So you're gonna have to do it using the SCP command, And then now what we want to do now is to SSH into our the server in the private subnet. So I'm gonna click here, and you go here to connect, and I'll do this one here first. Just follow the steps. I'm gonna chmod that, and then I go back to the SSH command here that I need to use. Now I'm gonna paste it there, and then I'll try to log in. So now you see we are logged in, and you can you can check here. So that's our system here. Can do that, and then -a. This is our system, and then look at this address here. That's a private address ending with 171. Let's go back here. So you see that's the address. This is the IP address. So that's our system. And then now that you log in, so you can update the system. And that's how you connect to the instances that you have in your private subnet. And this will pretty much conclude what we have done together. So what we have done, we've talked about a two-tier architecture that you can build on AWS. We created VPC, two subnets, one public and the other one private. And then in the public, we created a resource, and private, we did the same. And we allowed our both public and private subnets to have connection to the internet. For the private, we prevent, we only decided to have like an outbound rule, meaning that the private resources in our private subnet can connect to the internet, but no one will see them on the internet. So they cannot receive any traffic from the internet. And the public subnet and the resources hosted in that subnet, they are exposed to the internet. Pretty much that's what we did. And thank you so much for your time, and I hope to see you in the next video. God bless, and thank you again.